heard this story of this grumpy old man. All he ever did was complain. I mean, if it was raining outside, he wanted a sunny day. If it was sunny outside, he complained about it being too hot. He never seemed to have any joy in his life. One day he was driving down a dirt road, his dog riding in the back of his pickup truck, his faithful horse he had towed along right behind that in a trailer. But on the same drive, he failed to negotiate a curve properly and had a terrible accident. Sometime later, a highway patrol officer came to the scene. He was an animal lover. He saw the horse first and, realizing the serious nature of the injuries of the horse, he drew his service revolver and put the animal out of his misery. He walked around the accident and found the dog. Also hurt critically, he couldn't bear to hear it whine in pain. So he ended the dog's life as well. Finally, he located the grumpy old man, who suffered multiple fractures, broken bones. He was bloody from head to toe, off on the side of the road in some weeds. "Hey, are you okay?" the cop asked. The grumpy old man took one look at the smoking revolver in the trooper's hand and said, "This is the best day of my life, officer." Now, let me give you a disclaimer about this joke. I'm totally sensitive to animals and their well-being, but I just wanted to give this as an illustration about complaining and how our outlooks can change. Today, I'm going to talk about complaining. Complain not is the name of my message, and it's coming out of Philippians, the second chapter, and verses 14 and 15. I'm going to read the NIV and the Amplified. So starting with the NIV, it says, "Do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that ye may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped, crooked generation. Then you will shine like the stars among the sky." The Amplified says, "Do all things without grumbling and fault-finding and complaining and questioning and doubting, that ye may show yourselves to be blameless, innocent, uncontaminated children of God, without blemish in the midst of a crooked and wicked generation, among whom you are seen as a bright light in a dark world." The definition of complaining is to express feelings of pain and dissatisfaction or resentment. But as believers, we're not to act on feelings. We're not to be led by our feelings, but rather we're supposed to be led by faith. Because faith isn't based on a feeling. It's not based on what we feel inside or something that moves us. It's based on the substance of hope of the things that aren't seen. So when we get off into complaining, what it does is to let others know that we're unsatisfied and discontent with our current life situation. And it's hard for us to shine as bright stars when we bring that negativity about. If we're in Christ and in faith, we know trials will come, but we have the grace to overcome it, and we're more than conquerors. We should be careful with our words. Our words and our actions are the only witness of faith that many people will ever experience that are around us. We may be the only Bible that some people see, the only Bible that some people ever read. Us, our witness, our actions. And if you think about this in the depth of its responsibility, it challenges us to be mindful of everything that we do. So, just remember back in the verse 15 that we are to be seen as bright lights in a dark world. I'm not saying or implicating being fake or acting superhuman, like we don't have real issues in life or that affect our emotions. What I'm saying is very important to be sensitive about the things that we say and to make sure that we're not speaking in direct opposition to what God has done and will do in our lives. The root of the Hebrew root, if we break down complaining in the Hebrew, it comes from the root, and it's called loon or lean. That's the two words that would be the Hebrew root of that. Loonleen. And if you break down that root to its core, it means to stop, usually overnight, or to stay, to dwell, to tarry, to complain. So this shows us that we're not getting anywhere by complaining. Essentially, we're just at a stop or a standstill. We remain where we are and we're not moving forward. Complaining could be an illustration to us to see how worldly we still are. We can take a self-assessment to see, where we are in our walks with God. Ask somebody, what they think about us, what our outlook of life is. Do we complain a lot? Monitor the words that come out of your mouth. Are you always being negative and complaining about this, that, and the other thing? And remember, when you do so, you're not getting anywhere. And also, the words that you speak go out into the atmosphere and directly create the reality around you. And remember, other people are listening to you. Other people will be drawn into the negativity that you speak, and you can easily become a minister of fear, doubt, and unbelief, and draw others, as well as yourself, away from faith. The very thing that you're complaining about is very possibly the thing that God is trying to deliver you from. The very thing that you're complaining about now is very possibly the thing that God is trying to deliver you from. But every time you complain, you're not getting anywhere, and sometimes you're holding yourself up from your blessing. You can get so caught up in your circumstances that you get into a situation where you feel defeated because of all the negativity that you brought about the challenges that you face. But here's a breakthrough recipe I've gotten for you. The breakthrough recipe to get you from a place of complaining to a point of steadfastness and rightful place of faith. Obedience, faith, patience, and prayer are the 4 elements of this. Obedience by obeying God and doing what He told you to do. Obedience will always move you forward. Faith, believing in the unseen. Patience, waiting on God, waiting on Him to move at the right and proper time. And prayer. Not being anxious about anything, but consistently praying until you get your breakthrough. If you consistently just run a cycle, making sure that you're doing all these things, instead of complaining, I promise you'll see a breakthrough in your life. I was thinking the other day, in my personal life, about how I can have more of an attitude of gratitude instead of complaining. I mean, how many of us complain in certain situations like the air conditioning going out? I know I don't like to be hot, but if my air conditioning goes out at my house or in my car, I just think about how I'm sweltering. But there's some people don't have transportation. Some people don't even have a home to go to. We complain about a minor injury, but there's some people who are seriously hurt and afflicted. We complain about kids messing up the house, but there's some people who want so badly to have children, but they cannot. We complain if the sermon is too long or puts us to sleep, but yet there's some people who've never even heard the gospel. So we've got to change our perspective. Just like that old man in the joke in the beginning of the message. You got to look at life and just realize that, complaining is not getting you anywhere. Some things won't always go your way, but just have a perspective of hope and of faith and hold on to that. I believe there's a blessing that comes from not complaining. I absolutely believe it, because if you look at this, if you can relate to this actually, how many of us as parents want to bless our children because they do what we tell them to do, or they don't do what we tell them not to do? That's obedience. Obedience definitely moves me as a dad. I have a daughter, and every time she does what I say, I feel quickened to move to the next thing to bless her. I just want to just move forward, not get stuck in telling her to do the same thing over and over again. So if God tells us not to complain and not to grumble, then just think about just not doing so, the obedience in that, and how that just sets us up for a blessing. There's absolutely a blessing in not complaining. So let's make sure that we are simply obedient to the will of God. Together, let's make a concentrated effort to give thanks for our blessings, to give God praise in advance for the things that we're believing Him to do, and just say something positive. God bless you.